been wanting to shoot film for quite a long time now, but one of the most common questions I get is, why bother? Isn't it just for hipsters? Isn't digital way better? Well, the answer to that is no, from a technical standpoint and also from a creative one. So the question is more, why do you bother doing anything? Well, I can only speak for myself, but I don't know. Most of the time, it's because I'm bored. Frankly, I'm tired of listening to the same old arguments that happened 15 years ago in photo magazines. Film is just a different medium. It doesn't need to be pitted against digital. People will use them for different things. Just because there's photographs doesn't mean that paintings and drawings are obsolete. They're different forms of visual communication, and ostensibly, for most people, they're a hobby. So you just do it because you like it.
There's a certain magic about film photography that since it's a really worthwhile medium for lots of people to explore. There's something exciting about it that makes you want to go out and shoot. That even if it's just some level of novelty, it can also teach you a lot about becoming a better photographer. Taking better photographs on film is surprisingly accessible, and I think something that people should really have a go at. This isn't the first time that I've ever done film photography, and what I really liked about it before was how tactile it was, how just feeling the clicking sounds and the mechanical operation of the cameras. But also the thing that I was really intrigued by was the artistic possibilities of using film. An artist friend of mine bought some double exposures from her because I thought they looked so cool. So I started playing around in Photoshop and making digital double exposures, but it's not quite the same thing. You're a little bit more divorced from the process and just isn't the same sort of level of fun, and the idea of having things that aren't perfect and you're not quite sure how they're going to turn out ends up being the thing that you really enjoy about it. There's also a psychological effect, which I talked about in a TikTok video, which is known as the IKEA effect. And the IKEA effect is something that means that you're more likely to value a table that you get from IKEA than you would if you just bought a pre-made table. That's because you've worked hard on it, you feel more invested in it. And I think that's part of what makes film photography so alluring. The other thing is that I think it's better for documenting stuff, because one of the things that's happened with the advent of having our phone as the main use for recording things photographically means that there are so many thousands of photos on your phone that when you want to look back to certain sections, you have to sort of rely on when your phone tells you on this day or goes back 5 years, because if you're like me, you've probably got thousands of photos on your phone. It takes you such a long time to go through your camera roll that some of the more significant moments you forget that you even had them. There's too much noise there. And one of the things that I can remember growing up was that you would have photo albums, and then you could look back through photo albums that your parents had kept. It would be my older brothers and sisters and significant parts of their life. Because there was more time in between and they were more likely to value the moments that they would take a photograph, it meant that you had a more significant document that would tell you over a broader spectrum the sorts of things that they had done. How quickly things develop nowadays, I think a lot of movement towards digital photography didn't happen because film photography was bad or an inferior medium, which it isn't. It happened in some part because people wanted you to buy products. Once your current camera or phone becomes obsolete, you have to upgrade it to get a better one. And you can see that with phone marketing now, that people will buy phones because they want the better camera that comes with the phone, and they're willing to spend many thousands of pounds in order to acquire that. The thing with film cameras is that they're really, really cheap. Even a medium format camera, which is one that is miles better than the digital camera you're likely to have by a huge margin, is probably going to set you back about 500 quid. But you can pick up good quality film cameras for about 30 to 40 quid. And so one of the things that I find unusual about when people have an objection to shooting on film is that they are concerned with the cost, when ultimately the cost is either comparable or lower. So yes, there are ongoing costs of developing the film. When you consider the ancillary costs to owning cameras, it's pretty comparable depending on how much you're actually shooting. When you think of storage space, backing things up, lenses, I mean, you need lenses for either, software subscriptions, it all adds up, and it just doesn't seem to make sense as to that being a proper objection. But those film cameras don't become obsolete, so the hardware for them is pretty much free because it won't go down in value. If you bought a film camera for 50 quid today, you're going to be able to sell it in a year's time for 50 quid. If anything, it's likely to be more because people don't manufacture them anymore. If you don't have a separate camera than your phone camera and you were thinking about buying a separate digital camera, I would consider having a look at a mechanical SLR for film. And that's because on a digital camera, if you're going to get a full frame camera, which is a top end one, it's going to start from a decent amount. But the full frame is the digital part of the camera that is going to be the same size as the piece of film that film cameras used to imprint it on, so 35mm. If you're going to compare the cost to getting the same quality image and an image that's going to feel slightly different because it's done on film rather than on digital, like on your phone, then why not have a look at getting a film camera? In simple terms, you're going to get better quality images if you get a film camera than what you would spend on a digital camera, because if you're going to get a consumer grade one, it's unlikely to be put onto the same sized image sensor. There are other things to consider, like if you wanted to take photographs at night, then digital cameras tend to be better. But what you can avoid with all this is the whole thing of feeling like you've bought something that is just going to be out of date in a tiny amount of time. But the most compelling reason for me is that it's fun. It gives you something to massively look forward to when you've either taken your film to get developed or if you want to develop it yourself. I personally love printing photographs. I like having them on the wall. I like attempting to take artistic photographs. And as far as printing photographs is concerned, it hasn't actually got better since going digital. It may have got easier in some regards because you can order them on those websites where you upload them and you order them and it comes in the post. But it doesn't have the same magic as printing them in the darkroom. The other thing that I have to admit is that those photos at the start were digital photos that I enhanced to make look like black and white film. And that's one of the things that happens quite a lot. When I've been taking photographs, I end up trying to emulate the look of film, which tells me that I like the look of film and it makes me feel a certain way. So why don't I actually shoot it on film? Another cool experience I've had is shooting on film is the way that people react to you when you have a camera. I've generally found a more positive reaction to it being shot on a film camera rather than on a digital SLR. People think you've got some sort of angle and you're there from the press. Whereas if you've got a film camera, I think you look like a student from art college that's doing a project, and people tend to be a bit more okay with that. So for me, the reason why I want to do it is because I think I'll get pleasure out of it. I don't particularly care for the explanations that people give that film photographs are inherently more valuable because they were more difficult to acquire, or that they're somehow inherently better. Clearly they have a slightly different visual quality, and to reproduce certain aspects in digital is actually just harder work and you don't need to do it. But it is fun, and I'm excited to see the ways that it can actually help me improve and learn a new craft. And that's why I'm really excited to announce that I'm going to be collaborating with Dan Burwood, who's a professional photographer in Birmingham, and I'm recording all of the stuff that I'm learning with him that I'm going to be sharing over on the Darkroom Birmingham page that I think we'll probably start a channel on YouTube too. So if this is something that you've been persuaded by and you'd like to give it a try, then obviously you can come to the studio to do one of the workshops, but also we'll be sharing loads and loads of content so that you can give this a go at home. Some of the things that you might feel a little bit uncomfortable with, like developing your film, I'm going to cover in a good amount of detail. So if you want to try this, then I'm going to have loads of information about it. Next time I'm going to be showing you how to practice developing your film and loading it onto a spool so that you can develop it in a Patterson tank. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.